Have you ever just looked up at the night sky and wondered, is there a message up there for us? For literally thousands of years, people have seen the sun, the moon, and the stars as more than just, well, balls of gas and rock. They've seen them as signs. And lately, it feels like we're seeing one incredible event after another, which has a lot of people asking, are these divine signals? Today, we're going to dive right into that question, exploring that tension between watching for signs and the scriptural warning to never set a date.
So let's just get right to it. The big question we're tackling is this. Do all these eclipses, these alignments, these predictable orbits, do they have a deeper meaning for us down here on Earth? I mean, is it all just amazing celestial mechanics, or is there a message woven into the very fabric of the cosmos?
All right, here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at the scriptural basis for all this. Then we'll walk through a timeline of some really key events. We'll talk about the huge difference between seeing these as clocks versus wake-up calls, look at a really interesting case study with an asteroid, and then wrap it all up with what this means for us, what our posture should be.
Okay, so first things first. Where does this whole idea even come from? Well, the belief that what happens in the sky has meaning isn't some New Age trend. It's actually rooted deep in ancient scripture, which suggests the heavens were made for a whole lot more than just light.
You know, what's so powerful about this is that it's not some hidden, obscure verse. This is Genesis chapter 1, page 1. Right from the very beginning, the sun, moon, and stars are given a job description that goes way beyond just lighting up the planet. They are explicitly created to be used for signs and for marking out appointed times. This verse is really the cornerstone for anyone looking to the skies for a deeper meaning.
So, with that foundation in mind, let's look at the actual events from the past decade that have gotten so many people talking. And it's not just one thing you'll see. It's the rapid, almost relentless sequence of events that's so compelling.
This timeline really shows you the sheer density of it all. It kicked off with a tetrad. That's 4 total lunar eclipses in a row, and get this, they all happened on key Jewish feast days. Then you add in a major planetary alignment that many saw as significant, those 2 massive solar eclipses crossing the US, and a whole bunch more events converging in 2025. It's this quick succession, one after another, that has people really paying attention.
Now let's zoom in on one of the signs that has been talked about the most, those 2 total solar eclipses. You had the one in 2017 that cut a path from the northwest down to the southeast of the US. Then the one in 2024 went from the southwest up to the northeast. When you put them on a map, their paths of totality form this giant X right over the heartland of the country.
And this brings us right to the heart of the matter, doesn't it? On one hand, some people see a deeply symbolic warning. But on the other hand, science correctly points out that these eclipse paths are just a result of predictable physics. But here's the thing the source material suggests. Can't both be true? Couldn't a God who created the laws of orbital mechanics use those very same predictable events to deliver a perfectly timed message?
And it doesn't stop there. We just had the most powerful geomagnetic storm in 20 years, lighting up the skies with auroras in places that never see them. And looking ahead, 2025 is just packed. There's a total lunar eclipse, a blood moon that will be visible over Jerusalem, and, this is a big one for many, a partial solar eclipse right before the Feast of Trumpets.
Okay, so when you lay out this incredible pattern of events, it is so easy to get caught up in countdowns and predictions, right? But this is where we have to pump the brakes, because the source material brings in a really profound and absolutely necessary word of caution, taken straight from Scripture.
This is probably the single most important verse when it comes to this whole topic. It's a direct quote from Jesus himself, and it could not be more clear. Trying to pinpoint the exact day and hour is just not something we're meant to do. This verse is the ultimate guardrail that keeps our observations from turning into dogmatic and ultimately incorrect predictions.
And that brings us to the core idea here. If we aren't supposed to know the exact day or hour, then what's the point of all these signs? Well, the idea is that they're not countdown clocks. They're alarm clocks. They're not there to tell us the precise minute of arrival. They're there to jolt us awake, to shout, hey, wake up, get ready, the time is getting short.
Now, to see how this all works in the real world, let's look at the whole topic of asteroids. This is an area where you see a lot of sensational headlines clashing with sober scientific reality, which makes it a perfect case study for the kind of careful thinking we're talking about.
So meet Apophis. I mean, with a name like that, taken from an ancient Egyptian god of chaos and destruction, it's bound to get your attention. And in 2029, this thing is scheduled to make a really, really close flyby of our planet. Just how close are we talking?
about 32,000 kilometers. Now, to put that into perspective, some of our own communication satellites orbit farther away than that. It's going to be so close that you'll actually be able to see it with the naked eye in some parts of the world. It's a truly rare event.
But, and this is a really big but, here is the crucial point. Despite how close it's getting, despite the scary name, the science is crystal clear. After tracking it very carefully, NASA is confident that Apophis poses zero risk of impact for at least the next 100 years. So it's going to be a close shave, for sure, but a safe one.
You see, Apophis follows a pretty common pattern. As this table shows, a lot of asteroids cause some initial concern, but then they're downgraded to safe once we get better data. The scientific risk goes away. But this source asks a much deeper question. Even if there's no physical danger, could the global attention on an asteroid named for the god of chaos be its own kind of spiritual wake-up call?
And that brings us to our final section, where we're going to pull all these different threads together. We've seen the incredible signs, and we've heard the serious cautions. So what's the ultimate takeaway? How are we supposed to respond to all this?
The source material doesn't just hand us a simple answer. Instead, it asks us to reflect on these questions. Whether you see all this as just a string of random coincidences or as divinely orchestrated events, the real key is how you respond. Does thinking about it all make you afraid, or does it inspire a sense of faithful urgency to get your life in order? And here it is. This is the central idea that really resolves the whole conflict. It is absolutely possible to see these signs as powerful indicators that we are living in a very significant season, that Christ's return is getting near without falling into that trap of circling a specific date on the calendar. The signs point to the season, not the specific second.
So what does being ready actually look like? Well, the source outlines this 4-step call to action. And notice, the focus here isn't on prepping a bunker or hoarding supplies. It's about building your character and mending your relationships, testing everything against Scripture, praying, living righteously, and boldly sharing your faith.
And that's where we'll end it. After looking at all of this, the eclipses, the feasts, the warnings, the ultimate question really turns back to each one of us. If the heavens are shouting a message, and that message isn't a date on a calendar, what is it calling you to do? Right here, right now. What changes in your life when you start living with that sense of hopeful, watchful urgency? That's the real question.